Session 3, Part 2. We're going to look at testing in faults. So at the end of this part of the session, you should all be able to list in order the process of safe isolation procedure, which we've already looked at in the safety module. You should also be able to describe the purpose of and list some of the key information for each of the following: an insulation resistance test, polarity test, and continuity test. I would suggest for this part of the session to view the PowerPoint, because inside the PowerPoint there's a load of really good in-depth videos which show how to carry out these tests, being showed by professional electricians. So we're going to briefly talk about testing in faults, okay? So in this test, they're going to ask some questions about the purpose of and reason for completing certain types of tests: safe isolation procedure, continuity test, insulation resistance test, and the polarity test. So we've already touched on safe isolation in our last module, in our safety module, and it's one of the most important tests we need to know about. There's going to be quite a few questions around this in this test, okay? So you have to carry out this test before working on any circuit. You have to check that the circuit is dead before you work on it. And there's a refresher video on these. I recommend, like I say, go into the PowerPoint and view these videos, okay? Insulation resistance test. Okay, insulation resistance test, it does exactly what it describes. Its purpose is to check that the insulation between the wires are working as they should do. You put a big voltage in, you put a voltage of 500 volts, worth remembering, okay, into the circuit, and then you check the resistance on the earth bar, and that would essentially let you know that if it shows a very high resistance, then we know that it's okay. It needs to be more than half of a mega ohm, which is that's a big number. Okay, and then here's a video which you can watch in the PowerPoint. Okay, polarity testing. Polarity testing, the purpose of that is essentially to check that it's been wired up correctly. You do a polarity test to make sure that the live and neutral haven't been crossed over at some point. And then again, we've got a good video which describes how to carry it out on the next slide. Okay, continuity test. The purpose of the continuity test is to check that the wire's not broken, that it's got continuity from one point to another. You can do continuity tests on the earth wire. You can also do them on any of the cables, the live or line or the neutral. Okay, when you do a continuity test, what you're looking for is a very low resistance between one point and another. And again, we've got a video on the next slide. Like I say, I would highly recommend looking at the PowerPoint, because